The camera doesn't actually have to be close to your head. As long as you're controlling it, you're picking the shot, this sort of thing. And this is sort of mind-blowing. If you can actually have this sort of separation, this bifurcation between the location of your head and the location of the camera, then you can do absolutely anything. This is a story about me as a little boy, a very little boy, in fact, like a baby, and some failed eye surgeries that resulted in me only seeing out of one eye. In fact, I still only see out of one eye, my left eye, because of these problems. And it's also a story about how I came to know light through all of this. I was a little boy. I had just been born, and I had a terrible right eye. The eye would turn in, and nothing would work. I was born back in 1971, July 1971. For those of you doing your star charts at home, I have a Cancer, rising Capricorn, they say. And by the way, my mom sends me my horoscope every single day in an email, so I always think I know what's going to happen. But now, when I guess my mom was pregnant with me. Now we know all this stuff we didn't back in the late 60s, early 70s. You know, you're not supposed to smoke and drink and ride a roller coaster. I'm pretty sure my mom did all those at the same time. And so I came out with a few deficiencies, and one of them was just this really bad eye. And so I went to the eye doctor, and they tried to perform 2 different surgeries on my right eye to rearrange the muscle so that it would actually track straight. Well, it never did. In fact, it just got worse and worse and worse. And so what happened was I was like super cross-eyed, which is you know, both embarrassing. I mean, it's really embarrassing because you can't do anything about it. And you only get to see out of one eye. The way it works, actually, you do have double vision for a long time, but then over a few years, what happens is your brain just starts to ignore anything that comes out of your right eye because it's miscellaneous data. So that's still the way it is for me now. And so I'm growing up with this, and so on and so forth, and then I get into my later years, not later years, but, you know, teenage years or whatever, and then into my 20s, and I'm starting to become more and more creative. And it never really occurred to me that I actually saw the world a little bit differently. I mean, I actually saw it differently than most people, because I still don't really know what 3D vision is like. And as I got into my 30s, I started becoming more and more interested in art and creating. I had done a lot of writing, a lot of creative writing. I had done a lot of pottery. I love ceramics. I even have my own ceramics wheel. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I always had this sort of creative thing happening, and I felt like I wanted to make art, but I wasn't ever really sure what art was. And this actually came up as a discussion topic a few nights ago at dinner. I'm here with a bunch of old friends and new friends in Africa, and usually our dinner discussion is rarely so serious. It's usually, you know, quite ridiculous, but I guess we got off on a kind of serious topic about art. And we kind of went around the table. People gave different answers. My friend Brad said, art is anything that makes you happy. Belle behind the camera had a very lovely answer about art too. And then I guess it circled back to me, and I kind of gave it a little bit of a different twist, I guess, because maybe the question itself was a little flawed. And to me, art is any manifestation of true beauty in the universe. And I think we all know art when we see it, don't we? Because it resonates with us. We kind of get a glimpse of the divine. And it can be manifested in any way. It could be a beautiful piece of music that you listen to. You just know it's art. Art can be making love to a great woman. Art can be the written word. You can read a delicate passage and just know that you've just encountered the divine. Art can be laughing uproariously and just having this sort of peaceful flow with the universe. It can be so many things. And the most wonderful thing about it is that when you feel you're in the middle of an artistic situation, you are fully present, aren't you? You're not thinking about the future or worried about the past. You're just right there experiencing it. And as you experience the art, you are actually fully conscious. So I think what's happening as everyone around that table and you and me, you watching this, as we create art and we bring art into the world, what we're actually doing is making the world more conscious. And this is one of the most awesome things that we're doing. So we're all in this thing together. I think that's kind of a neat idea, that art is just not a thing, but it's a process that we're all going through together to make the world more conscious. And I'm wondering how I came to these ideas, inchoate as they are. But I think it's because as I was growing up, I could only see in 2D, and I experienced the world in this very, very different kind of way. And when I look at things, my brain registers them in a special way, and I came to know light in a completely different manner. Because my brain, since I couldn't get depth, I became super sensitive to light. And like tonight, we're here in Botswana. We were just out driving around, looking at incredible wildlife, and just watching the way the light falls across the wildlife. And I come back here, and it's a beautiful lodge, and the light is so cool. And I just take pictures of everything all the time, and it's so fun to see what actually happens. But I think, looking back on my childhood. By the way, my friend Thomas Hawk has the same thing that I have, where he only sees out of one eye. And I'm going to steal this from him. He came up with it. He calls it the gift, because it is a gift that we, actually do see the world in 2D, and we're able to take pictures which are ostensibly 2D. It just makes a lot of sense to us. But I think this is actually something wonderful about growing up with strange stuff that happens in your life, or physical deformities, or something that's mentally a little strange, or traumas, or whatever it might be, because it makes your brain a little bit abnormal. And that's actually what you want. It's counterintuitive, but you want to have strange stuff, a strange way to be wired. Because if you're wired up strange, that means you do see the world in a unique way. And hopefully there is, something kind of wonderfully abnormal about you that you can feed on and harness in your art. We weren't born to be normal. Normal is one of the worst things you can be. So go ahead and embrace whatever abnormalities you have, and use those and think about them and harness them to feed into your art.
I'd like to begin by showing you some of my favorite night shots. And I think one reason I'm so fascinated by night and star photography is because, as a kid, I never saw the stars until I got glasses. And then I was actually able to see the stars, and I couldn't believe that I had been underneath these things my whole life. So now I just never get tired of looking at them. This was shot here in Queenstown. This is during the Aurora Australis. This was the final flight of the space shuttle. I was able to go out there and visit it on its final night on the launch pad. This is Milford Sound. This is it sort of bathed in moonlight. It's a moonbeam coming down there. This is Queenstown. This is where I live. It's my hometown down there, about 20,000 people or so. And this is it under the Milky Way. Those distant mountains over there are called the Remarkables. Here's another scene from the Aurora Australis. This was actually shot at midnight, even though it looks really well lit. You might see a shadow there on the water. That shadow is actually a moon shadow from the mountain. This is down near Invercargill. The Aurora, once again, stopped on a bridge over the river. This is a road to Las Vegas. Those distant lights over there, the lights of Vegas. This is going through the Valley of Fire. This is my favorite tis church in Tekapo. This is Lake Tekapo. That's about 4 hours north of me here in New Zealand. So there you go. Now let's work on a photo together, okay? Now we're really amping up the level of difficulty here because it's going to be a night photo and a panorama, okay? So let me just make this one big just so you can see it. So this is one of the panoramas. I've also amped up my level of difficulty because I wasn't even close to being steady with the horizon. All right, just sort of a mess. All right. It was dark. That's my only excuse. Now you can see each of these is a 30-second exposure, okay? And depending on the lens and this sort of stuff, you want to use different exposures. I used here a 35mm f1.4, okay? And I kind of made a grid, 3 across on the bottom and then 3 across on the top, okay? Now we want to combine them all into one photo. There's a few ways to do this. I can select all of them and I can go to Tools, Photoshop, Photo Merge, okay? And that will move them all into a panorama. But I find it doesn't always do that great of a job. So we'll use this other program I have. It's called Auto Pano, okay? So let's open this thing up. This is a very confusing interface. I'll be honest with you. Okay, let's find our photos we're gonna put together. Click here, then we'll go find the right location, which is here in my processing directory. I'll say choose. All right. And then, so we're going to select all of these images and then press play. You can see this progress bar moving there as it's going through the raw files and trying to combine them all into one final thing. And here we are. This is the resulting situation. You can see it's kind of a mess. That's as expected. That always happens in panos. So let's go make it look better now, okay? Okay, so now we're going to render it, all right? Look how it's so confusing, isn't it? My goodness. But we're gonna make it a JPEG, all right? We're not gonna put it in that folder. We're gonna put it inside processing and say choose. Okay, now we'll click render. Render away. And here we are back in Bridge, and there is our photo, okay? Got a little work to do, And here we are back in friendly Photoshop, okay? Let's start with a crop, shall we? Because it's just a little bit herky-jerky, huh? Got a few problems here. Okay, so we're gonna pull this in, then pull this down from the top like this. Oh yeah, now we're getting better. It's looking better. You can see that our horizon is all wonky donkey too, can't you? Man alive, what a mess. What a mess. Okay, that's all right, it's coming along. Then I will hit enter right here. Very cool. All right, this is coming together, looking better. Now there's a lot of problems we gotta fix. There's a lot of problems, I'll be honest with you. Part of the problem is down here. You see this didn't match up very well. We've got a little bit of messiness over here, so on and so forth, okay. Let's start with fixing the horizon here. Okay, how will we do that? Well, let's just try the content aware patch tool here. Let's just brush over that and see if that fixes it. A little bit. Oh, it's not so bad actually. Let's get down in here. We're going to use a clone stamp tool now to see if we can make it a little bit better. Okay, get rid of this little bush here. It's not so obvious, not so obviously repeating. Let's just bring this down here a little bit. Okay, let's use the J tool again, just try to smooth out this curve here. Okay, let's get a bit of a smooth curve. There we go. That's better. Much better. Okay, as long as we're down here, let's get rid of some of these bright things back here that I think that are a little bit distracting. Okay, get rid of this. This is one of the cabins that was back there. I just want it to feel like it's just us in the tree and the stars. Okay. Now, we have this black area over here, right? If we want to fill that with stars, it's not too hard. What we can do is we'll pick this tool, then we'll draw our little triangle. Boop, boop. And if you double click, it closes up the loop. Then we'll go Edit, Fill, and it will just do Content Aware. All right. Just fill it in with more stars. All right. If you ever see a pattern that's too obviously repeating, you can just get rid of it and make a few new stars. Okay. Same thing up here. Let's do that same trick. 1, 2, and then double click. And it'll say Edit, Fill, Content Aware Fill. There we go. Good, good, good. Very nice. Okay, now let's zoom out a little bit here. Now let's make the stars look just better, okay? Because right now they're not doing too much for me. All right. Let's go ahead and duplicate the layer just so we kind of have an original underneath that we can refer back to later. And we're going to go up here to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. Now this will give us pretty much the same stuff that we had inside of Lightroom, but we just have it here instead. Okay. Let's start by playing with the white balance. Now we've kind of lost all of our original raw stuff, so we can't really change this any. But if we cool it off, which I like to do quite a bit, you can see what that does to the sky. Then if we start adding some contrast, you're going to see it's going to get nice and inky. Right now it's feeling like pretty cool, isn't it? Let's just play with the highlights and the shadows here, the whites and the blacks. Very nice. A little bit of clarity might help. Good. A little vibrance maybe. Awesome. Let's play with this a little bit more. All right, this is looking pretty cool, isn't it? Pretty cool. See the oral exposure. All right, looking good. Looking good. Let's go over here to noise reduction. Let's just do a little bit of this, okay, to get rid of some of that messy noise. It's quite small in there. It'll help the stars pop out more as well. Yeah, this is looking really nice, I think. Let's just play with the tone of the blue a little bit. So we can bring it into more of the aqua, kind of more into the purple zone. I kind of like it more in the purpley blue zone. Very nice. And luminance, what's going to happen here? Don't play with that too much. It's looking pretty good though, I must say. And everything else is looking all right. Let's do a little vignetting. Does that help? Yeah, maybe a little bit. It's looking good. All right, so now we'll say okay. So you can see it went from that to that. I mean, tremendously different, right? When you're looking at this, you're probably thinking, oh, you know, that's not so bad. Those are pretty stars. But then when you see it like this, you're like, oh yeah, ride the pony. Now we're going to do another little trick to make the Milky Way seem even more awesome. Okay, we're going to duplicate this layer. Okay, and then this one, let's make multiply. Okay, because you can see it makes it super intense like that. All right, we'll take the normal one, put it on top. We'll pick a layer mask, and now we'll just do a little bit of light painting. Wherever we paint, of course, it's going to get a little bit darker. So we'll do it kind of like on the outside of the Milky Way and the inside of the Milky Way. Okay, just to give it that, just to enhance it just a little bit. Okay, just a little bit of enhancement there. Very cool. Looking awesome. Looking awesome. All right, good. Now let's combine those. And now we're going to do this kind of Orton effect type thing, all right? Do a double dupe. We are going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. You'll see me do this many more times in other episodes as well, okay? It's a bit of an advanced trick. Not necessary, of course. None of these are necessary. So we're going to blur this thing, pretty extreme, all right? Now we're going to change the blend mode to overlay. Okay, like that. All right, cool. Looks pretty awesome. Let's take the original one and put it back on top. And now any place that we brush through, it'll get a little bit of that dreamy star look. Okay. I don't want too much because it does make it look a little bit, you know, too blurry. Let's do the whole thing though, because I do like the whole thing a little bit. The whole thing, 80% opacity. Then we'll brush here and kind of brush through some of these zones. Just a little bit of dreaminess here, a little bit of dreaminess in the starry night. Yeah, there we go. All right, awesome. Okay, so we started out with these, all right, with this mess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we started out with that big old mess. We combined them into one to rule them all with this, which is kind of cool, but a little wonky donkey. And then we went from that to our final shot right here. Awesome. Okay, well, I hope this got you interested in night photography, a little astrophotography. I absolutely love it. I can't get out there enough. And I hope you are inspired to go try it yourself. Just grab your tripod and head on out there one night and see what you can scare up. All right, well, thanks for joining me for this episode, and I will see you right around the corner in the next one.
One of the wonderful things that happens when you're a photographer, an artist, or you're creative is that you just have more moments that you remember, and it's an absolutely incredible thing.